don't understand it, and I'm not going to pretend to, but that's what kids her age do now, is they wear hoodies year round.
I was going to ask you about that because my 13-year-old does the exact same thing. That girl, we were going out for dinner the other night, and that girl had sweatpants and a hoodie on. And I said to her, I said, Mia, it's like 95 degrees outside. And she's like, oh my God, it's so hot. And we get in the car, and she was complaining about how hot it was. And then we get to the restaurant, and it was, typically like in the summertime, restaurants all have the air on, and it's cold in the restaurant, right? And she goes, ha ha, I got a hoodie and sweatpants on. I'm feeling good. And she's like, the rest of you guys cold? I'm like, I'm fine. I'm just saying, when you go outside, you're going to melt again.
Well, she went to a movie a few weeks ago, and I was like, it's always cold in the movie theater.
Yeah.
Probably should bring a hoodie, like you always do. Oh, I'm not going to this time. I give up. Do whatever you want. I'm not dying on this hill.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
So whatever. It is what it is.
And you're right. You learn through, like, parenting, right? There's battles you fight and battles you don't. And I think that, like, what they wear is, like, probably one of the first things that they can control when they kind of get to be teenagers and they're picking out their own clothes and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I'm like, more power to you. Like, if you feel like if you feel good in what you're wearing, then you wear that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really like to
within
fight that
reason
battle so much. So
within reason.
Like, I was gonna fight that battle too for a while, and then I started to think, like, just from, like, a male perspective, like, one of my oldest daughter said to me one time, she said, if you have a problem with what I'm wearing, it's your problem, not my problem. She's like, my bits aren't showing, so so what, then you're the one making it an issue, not me. And I was like, well,
sure,
maybe there's some truth to that, right? Like, maybe I feel a certain way about a low cut shirt, right? But maybe that's my problem as the dad or a male. You know what I mean? Whatever. And so,
sure.
I checked myself a little bit and thought, well, okay, so she's right. Her bits aren't showing. What she's wearing is not illegal anywhere, right? And
well, not in this country.
Yeah, right. So I was just like, maybe it's not worth the fight because she feels confident and comfortable and whatever. And so I kind of stopped fighting those battles and let them kind of regulate that stuff a little bit. And I think that if I pushed on it too hard, it probably would have been so much worse. But because I didn't,
sure.
I think that they manage their own, kind of thing. And, I think the biggest thing is maybe kind of helping them navigate that, like, okay, what's appropriate for church? What's appropriate for whatever? You know what I mean? Because sometimes that's a little bit different because they get regulated so much. Like, there's things that it's called getting dress coded at our school, right? They're like, oh, you got dress coded. You had to turn your shirt inside out. And I was like, oh, right. So, like, as an example, this really amazing shirt that I'm wearing right now may or may not be dress coded, right? So here,
like there should be a theme song playing right now as you point that out.
Right. So, like, here's my deal with it. If an adult walked up to me or like they were going to dress code this, I would say, for what? Because it says motorcycles. If you see anything else here, that's your problem, right? Maybe you need to check yourself if you're seeing something here other than the word motorcycles. Welcome to Moto State Podcast, where we talk about motorcycles, life, and everything in between. Right? Yeah. So, that's where you can kind of bring, because my daughter said that to me one time too. She goes, we're going out to dinner. Are you going to wear that shirt, Daddy? I said, it just says motorcycles. If you see something else, that's your problem, I guess.
Yeah, I think for me, when Sophie was a little bit younger, it's like, okay, so if you want to wear that, that's fine. I need you to wear shorts under that skirt.
Oh,
that
yeah.
dress,
Right.
things like that. And I think to your point, educating, like, okay, you're going to wear this. And so just understand that how you sit, if you drop something, how you bend over to pick it up, things like that.
Right.
She's at the age now where she understands that, but
right.
A few years ago it was just conversations and, like I said, educating. But for Sophia, she goes to a private school, so it's the same damn thing every single day that she wears.
Oh, so she's got like a private school dress code kind of situation.
Yep, polo, skirt
Okay.
For 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Before that, it was a jumper. But got to wear shorts underneath it.
Sure.
It has to be hand length, like the end of your fingers need to be the length of your skirt, and no makeup.
Oh wow. Okay.
You can't paint your fingernails.
Oh wow.
You can't have like crazy colors, just natural coloring of your hair. Like if you want to, she has blonde streaks, that's fine. That looks
Sure.
natural. Um, but we also live in the city of St. Louis, and the city of St. Louis, the public schools in the city of St. Louis are awful. They lost their accreditation years ago and just recently got it back. So if you live in the city, you go to a private school or a charter school.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's very different from where we are. So I mean,
very different from how I grew up.
Yeah.
It's been a learning curve for me.
yeah. No, it sounds like it for sure. For sure.
Well, hey, here we are.
Yeah. I mean, welcome back to the Moto State Podcast, episode number 3. Right. That was very
right.
loud. I was making a statement with that. It's very loud.
You're just excited to be here. I think you're excited to see me. I don't blame you. So here we are.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say you get better looking every time. I just get more used to it.
Yeah, I mean, you're not in shock of my beauty as much as you were episode 1.
Yeah,
I get
right,
it. It's
right.
fine. It's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
It's fine.
I'm just more used to it now. So, you know.
Yeah. It's so great. Well, what are we talking about today?
Well, I think that it might be good. Here's what I was thinking. We were talking the other day about different things we like to do and don't like to do and that kind of stuff. But I think it'd be great if we talk about maybe like how do we manage doing all the things that we do? How do you manage being a father and a motorcyclist and a banker, and how do you manage your profession and your hobbies and your family all at the same time? Because I think that I think that topic is definitely something that would interest people, especially for those people maybe who, I'm married. I know you're not married, and so there's still challenges, right? You do have somebody that you share your life with, so there's still expectations of you, of your time, of
Sure.
of what what you have to do. So I'll let you go first. Like, let's just say, how are you managing your time between your job and your daughter and your expectations with with the person you share your life with?
Yeah, great question. So it can be a juggling act at times, for sure. I think any parent of a child or teenager, in my case, that has multiple activities. In this case, Sophia plays numerous sports and is on numerous teams in each sport. So in the fall, that's managing 3 or 4 different sporting teams she's playing on. In the winter, it's maybe 2, and in the spring, it's 2 to 3, depending on what we've got going on. Then there's work that takes up sometimes 35, sometimes 45 hours a week, just depends on the given week. And on top of that, there is time with my significant other, which is very much planned out because we are in a long distance relationship. So our time is scheduled. There's no like, hey, let's just go grab dinner real quick or grab happy hour. Can't do that. That's a 4.5 hour drive. So that's very scheduled. And then there's always, I have friends that I want to spend time with. And sometimes I like doing things on my own and just decompress, or just, I'm an only child, so I'm used to doing things by myself.
Sure.
So managing that is, it for me, in a good part of my adulthood, I was not good at managing that.
Okay.
I was very emotionally immature, more for a lot longer than I should have been.
Okay.
More than probably most guys. And what I've learned over the years is, and especially being with someone, having someone in my life I really want to spend time with, what I've learned is to give myself grace. But to me, it comes down to communication. So communicating with Sophia that I will be at this game even if it's not my weekend to have her.
Right.
If I'm going to be in Nashville or Knoxville, then I'm not going to be there, and this is why. And sometimes I'm telling her because there's certain things I've got to do, and there's sometimes, hey, are you okay with it? I want to make sure she feels like she's in control at times or has a say-so when that's applicable. Same thing with my friends. I've become a better communicator, not just text, but picking up the telephone.
Sure.
For me, maybe that's old school compared to nowadays, but I think there's a big connection. And as in the last 2.5 years, driving back and forth to Nashville a lot more, picking up that phone because that's 4.5 hours each way, and catching up with family members that I don't talk to as much, or maybe friends here in St. Louis or in Knoxville that I haven't seen in a while, and just trying to make that connection or continue that connection with them. And then there's times where I'm going to tell my significant other, my friends, Sophia, I'm going for a ride. I'll be back in an hour. I'll be back in a week, or something in between, depending on what that looks like. But again, I think for me, it comes all down to communication and setting expectations with the people in your life. Like, if you haven't been able to see them, I'm sorry, I'm traveling. Hope everything's well. I'll catch up with you in a week or two. Things of that nature. So with Sophia, it's obviously there's a set schedule of parenting schedule, and when I'm not with her, and especially like I said earlier with weekends, setting expectation with her of what games I will be at and what I won't be at, or any other extracurricular activities, and then my girlfriend and I, we have to communicate a lot because with scheduling, because she has 2 kids of her own and I have one of my own, and they all have extracurricular activities, and how do we manage all that, plus working and other hobbies as well. So it's all about communication and making sure you're not being too selfish.
Sure. So let me ask you a question, and don't take this the wrong way, Luke, because it just popped into my head. But you said it, that you were like emotionally immature. Do you think that any of that has to do with being an only child and never having to share your time or your parents' attention or anything like that with anybody else? Do you think that maybe contributed to your,
Sure.
maybe that part of it, that you never kind of maybe developed that skill as a kid? Because I have this weird thing. My parents divorced when I was very young, and so I'm an only child of my mom. So I have only child tendencies. I'm an only boy with my 2 sisters on my other side of the family, and I'm also an oldest child and a middle child all at the same time, and it all depended on what family unit I fell in. So I could be an only child, only boy, middle child, oldest child, right? I could be all of those things.
That's a hell of a flow chart.
Right, exactly, right? It's stupid, it's weird, right? But what I learned through that is that, birth order matters, and there's tendencies in birth order, and also it matters whether you're a only child or you have a sibling or multiple siblings, because like you mentioned to me, you were on your motorcycle trip, your dad got ill, and you had to leave your motorcycle trip. Well, you don't share that responsibility with anybody, so your aging parents are going to be your responsibility no matter what. And so it's just an interesting scenario that we find those things in. And you said something interesting, is you said you were emotionally immature, right? And so as we get older, I think that we gain some perspective on life, right? We are affected by the things that happen to us and the things that happen that we do to ourselves. You know what I mean? And you either grow from those things or you become negatively affected by them, right? So having gone through divorce as a young child, having gone through a relationship that my mom had that was horribly abusive, and I was never like physically abused or anything like that, but I was definitely mentally abused for the better part of 10 years. And these things, they take their toll on you. And ironically enough, when you talked about communication, what was really interesting is that I didn't know some of the long-term effects of the things that happened to me till after I got married. Because while I was a good communicator, I wasn't good at feelings. When my feelings got hurt, I got mad. And then because for me, sadness manifests itself as anger. I don't do that sadness feeling very well, and I never have. I don't do it well now. It's not a skill that I possess. My wife is very in tune and intuitive to me, and so she knows this. We have a daughter that's like that, actually. She doesn't do sadness very well. And I don't think anybody does it well, but I think people have better coping mechanisms for things like that.
Sure.
Mine is shitty. I don't have a great I don't have a great coping mechanism for sadness, and so it manifests itself as anger, right? And so
Yeah.
so that's how I would describe that.
Yeah.
You
I would say
you use
actually, hold on. Let me answer your question.
yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
so,
I'm sorry.
So yeah, being an only child, absolutely. I was an only child, or am an only child. I was the only grandchild on my mom's side.
Sure.
The oldest and proclaimed favorite grandchild on my dad's side. Those were my grandparents' words.
Sure.
Not something I just made
It
up.
happens. I hear you.
Right. And so yeah, I was coddled. I didn't have to do anything. So, and looking back on it, it's so funny. Like, I didn't know how to do laundry. I didn't know how to cook. I couldn't scramble an egg.
Holy
nothing,
shit! Yeah.
Until I
Yeah.
was in college.
Yeah.
Had no idea.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I had roommates like, show me how to do that, and
Right.
they laughed.
Right.
About 20 minutes later, after they're done laughing, they showed me how to, fry an egg and
Right.
do laundry and.
Well,
blah,
there's
blah,
probably some cultural things with that, right? You grew up in the South, so
blah. Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
there's I mean, and I'm not throwing bones here at all. Like, people are different in different areas of the country. I mean, that's one thing that I think you definitely learn by traveling the country, is that areas of the country are very much like different countries in Europe, right? I mean, the southern part of the United States is nothing like the northern part of the United States. The people are
Correct.
very different. The cultural the cultural things in each area are very different. The people that live on the West Coast are very different than the people that live on the East Coast, right? They're
Yeah.
different people. And so there are values in the South that maybe are different and might have affected that. And I also think that
For me, no, absolutely not. That was just being spoiled.
Okay.
And
Okay. Well, there you
being
go.
spoiled, and also my parents came from were taught by a generation, or their parents were a generation that didn't share a lot, and certainly had what you mean by growing up in the South. And then my parents, they not great communitators.
Okay.
Still, they never will be.
Okay.
And I think that's a generational thing.
Sure.
I've had
Sure.
that conversation with them, especially after the health issues back in March. But
Sure.
but for them, it was also both working 50 hours a week and just trying to get things done and keep a household together. I mean, I hear what you say about in the South. My dad did the laundry, still does.
Oh, wow. Okay.
My
So-
mom cooked. That's how they split responsibilities. That's
Okay.
just how they did it.
Yeah. No, I mean that. So I mean, I was absolutely making a generalization, but I mean, thank you for clearing
Oh, sure.
that up because I worked with
You're not
somebody-
wrong. I can say that growing up in the South, absolutely. There's those cultural things from being in the South that are definitely prevalent.
And
because of
I think
where
that's
they
and
are.
I do think that there's an age group where that exists too, because I worked with a gentleman who kind of had a very similar situation, and his mother passed away, and his dad is struggling with everyday life, and he's struggling with everyday life because in his parents' marriage, his dad never did anything. He didn't cook. He didn't clean. Not only did he not do it, he didn't do it for more than over 50 years, right?
Wow.
So he didn't have that skill set. So now he's mourning the loss of his wife, his best friend, his partner, and now he's being forced to do all these things that he's never done for 50 years, and he doesn't want to. You know what I mean? He's not motivated. He doesn't want to do these things because he wants his wife back. And so
Sure.
he's not
Sure.
motivated to learn how to cook because he doesn't want to. He wants his wife back, right? So
Yeah.
it's. I mean, I totally get that. So
Yeah.
no, I mean, thanks for sharing, Luke, because I think it's really interesting. So for you, you say it's communication, which
Yeah.
I totally get. For me, it was about setting priorities. That's how I like to look at it. So when my wife and I first got married, she was my priority, right? So my priorities really have shifted, like away from like the family unit, and then my wife became my family, and she was my priority. And so, and we were each other's priorities for a very long time. And then as we grew and aged and got, different interests and our professions grew and that kind of stuff, our priorities were selfish because we focused on our profession and we focused on each other, and it kind of, did that. And then we had kids and our children became our priorities, right? And so to prioritize each other, we had to make time for that. And I think that's and I'm just going to be like a armchair psychologist. I think that's where people make some mistakes, is that they don't prioritize their partners. They prioritize their children over everything else, and they lose touch with their partners, right? So you have to do that. I actually had this conversation with our very first patron, and I'm going to give him a shout out, Jay Tomes. So
thank you, Jay.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. It was about a year ago, or maybe a year and a half ago, and we were sitting in a restaurant at Mama Tried, and Jay said to me, he goes, "Ryan, tell me how you ride as much as you do. How do you fit that into your life?" And I said, "Jay, do you like riding, or is it just something that you do?" He goes, "I love riding." He goes, "I just don't have time for it." And I looked right at him and I said, "Bullshit, Jay." And he was like, "What?" I said, "You're not making time for it, Jay." And he was like, he kind of looked at me. It was like a light bulb moment. I said, "You're prioritizing all of the other things in your life over this thing called motorcycling that you love." And I said, "If you love it, then you need to make time for it. And you need to prioritize yourself, which means you need to be selfish." I said, "I will tell you something, Jay, that I know about life and death." I said, when it's time to meet your maker, when you die, and if you're a person of faith and you're going to go to heaven or you're going to go to hell or whatever's going to happen to you, I said, you're not going to be laying in your deathbed thinking, "Fuck, I wish I did the dishes more.
Sure.
Fuck,
yeah.
I wish I worked more overtime.
Wish I'd seeded the lawn and made it more pretty."
Right.
No,
Fuck, I wish
not.
exactly. I wish I would have fixed those patches in the grass. Right.
Right,
like,
exactly.
I'm not saying that those things don't need to be done. What I'm saying is that you should be using that time to prioritize it differently. So I use this as an example. I said to him, I used to work all week long, and Saturday was my chore day. And he was like, "Yeah, most people do that." And I go, "That's bullshit." And he was like, he kind of looked at me and I go, "The whole idea of that is bullshit." I go, "Why not mow the grass Tuesday night after you've already worked all day long? Because your day is already wasted. Mow the lawn on Tuesday night so you don't mow it on Saturday and you get out and ride your motorcycle on Saturday." And he was like, "Huh." And so it was just a matter of just like telling somebody, like, you have the choice. You know what I mean? Prioritize what you want to do in your life. And if it's your family, your children, your whatever, make those priorities. And so, and the other thing somebody said to me one time was like, "Well, I'm not going to sacrifice any time with my children, to do X, Y, and Z." And I said, "Okay." I said, "But what lesson are you teaching your children? Do your children get to see you follow your dreams? Do your children get to see you live your best life? Do your children get to see all of you, or just the part of you that you're letting them see?" You know what I mean? How many people have you talked to in their lives and they get to that point and they're like, "Man, I never knew who my dad was." Like, my children know me. They know all of me. They know good, bad, and ugly. They know it all, right? And I'm not going to say that that's for everybody, but that's what I did, and that's what I wanted to do, because I want my children to know that it's okay when they share their lives with somebody, when they have a family, it's okay for them to live their dreams, to follow their dreams, to do the things that they want to do. This time that we have is short, right? And the time with our children is short. I don't deny that. But if I denied myself of the things that of my dreams, and I never showed my children that I was living my dreams, how do they know what it's like to live their own dreams? They'll never know that. They don't even know that it exists because they've never been given that example. You know what I mean? And so that was always my justification for it. And then when I started doing stuff on social media and stuff like that, I actually thought about it a lot in terms of legacy, right? Is that, I was involved in another podcast. I have done stuff on YouTube and whatever, But for me, that was a little bit of that's about legacy. Like, what am I leaving behind for my mark that, my generations after me might be able to look back. Maybe I have a grandchild 4 times removed, like a great grandchild that I'll never meet, that'll look back and be like, hey, like my great grandpa was fucking cool. Like, look at all this shit he did,
Sure.
or maybe he'll look back and say, holy, look at this douchebag. Right. I mean, but either way, that's part of your legacy. Right. And so,
Yep.
excuse me. So that's the way that I looked at it. Sorry.
No, I think I've heard you say that before, and I never looked at social media podcast or anything like that in that way until you said that. And it was kind of a aha moment for me. Like, yeah, one day when maybe it's my grandchild as they get older and I'm long gone, or maybe that's a great grandchild or whatever. Yeah, okay. My grandpa was pretty cool. He rode bikes. He did this. And I hope when they look back on social media or whatever, well, sometimes he was a dumbass.
Right.
but also they watch this, hey, and they listen to this, like, okay, my grandpa was also self-aware. It maybe wasn't his entire life, but he became self-aware and had made priorities like you were saying, and made time for himself, but also had a nice balance and made time for other people in his life, including his daughter. And that's what I hope for.
Yeah, well, and I think the mistake that we all make sometimes is that we assume that social media is fake. You know what I mean? And I don't think it has to be. Like, I think that you can be real. I think that you can present the things that are real. And don't get me wrong. Like, no one wants to go on social media and see somebody crying every week about how horrible their life is,
Sure.
right? That's
Right.
not what I mean. I mean that I think you can be real and present a real part of your life, share a real part of your life that is, that are moments of these real things. And I think that is, ultimately, part of the winning strategy there. Part of that being real is being, sharing that part of it. And so for me, I guess that balance that I would strike between family and my hobbies and my profession is really about prioritizing. You know what I mean? And I like to compartmentalize those priorities so that I'm focused on what that priority looks like at that given moment, right? So
Sure.
I'll give you a perfect example. Like, I work today, and then right now, I'm prioritizing what we're doing on here, and I have time set aside to do our edits and get our stuff uploaded and all that kind of stuff. And then, I'm going to turn back around, and I'm going to prioritize my wife on Saturday. It's our 29th wedding anniversary. So
Happy anniversary. That's awesome.
I appreciate it. We're going to go and get a hotel room out of town. My kids are going to stay home with the dog. We're going to have a nice meal. We're going to go to a comedy show. We're just going to prioritize each other, right? And during that time, I'm not going to ride down there with her on the motorcycle. We're going to take a car so we can talk to each other. We're just going to prioritize each other during that. And then, when I come home, I have to pack because I'll be gone for 4 days on a business trip. And so, I'll have to kind of get my life in line to be on that business trip and make sure my commitments to you and the podcast are taken care of. And, so that's how I like to say it, right? You use yours as communication. I'm going to say mine is prioritize. Is that I prioritize the things that are important to me, because I asked somebody one time, I also decide when I prioritize, like, what's important. You know what I mean? So when you were talking about the things that your daughters are involved in, to me, like, that's, as a parent, like, that's what you show up for. You know what I mean? Yeah. You show up to support your kids, win, lose, or draw, no matter what. You show up for those things. You support them, because that some people take that shit for granted, but when you think about it, there's a saying out there: 60% of life is showing up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, open the door, show up. Like that. That's such a huge step in the right direction. And whether your kids are involved in sports or music and theater, like my kids are involved in, like, you show up. it was weird. This weird thing happened a number of years ago where, like my wife and I, when our kids do shows, musicals, plays, whatever, we go to every performance.
Okay, sure.
And somebody said to me, "Man, you go to 5 performances in a row of the same show?" I'm like, "Man, you go to the same football game every Friday night?" And they were like, "Oh." I'm like, "It's no different." I said,
Yeah.
"It's just the kids are doing something different. Like maybe my kids don't do football, your kids don't do theater. Like that's why you don't understand it because you don't know it. So it's not but it's not any different, right? You show up, and that's how I prioritize. Do you have to make sacrifices? Does your job or does your family or your child take priority over things sometimes? Yes. Do but I also have said that I have made room for the things that I love in my life, my hobbies, motorcycling, whatever it might be. I've made room for that so that, I schedule around what my kids have, what my wife has, what we have to do, you work around that and schedule that time in there. And then I think the other thing, and you probably hit it on the head when you were talking about communication, is that I think it's important that as partners, whether it's our partner with us or what we do for our partners, is that you have to show them undying support in the things that they're interested in and the things that they love. You know what I mean? Even if you don't like it, you know what I mean? You have to do that, because if you don't, then you're discrediting the things that they're interested in. You're discrediting the things that they care about and they love, even if you don't love it. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
you suck it up. I don't give a shit if you love it or not. Like, suck it up and get out there and support them.
Yeah, I mean, listen, going to 10 soccer games when Sophia was 4, it was cute the first couple of games. After that, although still cute, got a little boring. It's just a mob of kids around ball. But you do that. You show up.
Yep.
You support your kid just like you would support your partner.
Yep.
And maybe it's 7 a.m. on a Saturday or 10 o'clock on a Friday night. Whatever it is, you do it, and that is love, and that is commitment to whether it's your partner, your child, your friends, your family, whatever that is. You show up.
Yeah. And then I think the other thing that you do after that is, for us, we've had circumstances where I've had to go to bat for my kids, right? That there was, there was a 2 years ago, the school board in our town was balance their budget, and they were going to remove more than a third of the budget from the music, from the arts in our town. And 100 kids showed up at the school board meeting. 100.
Wow.
And each one of them, the school board meeting was 6 hours long. Each one of them gave a speech on what the arts meant to them in their lives. And the school board changed their mind.
That's awesome.
And we showed up. Like, we went to the school board meeting. I didn't sit through 6 hours of school board meeting, but I sat through all of my daughter's friends, or most of my daughter's friends, and my daughter who went and did their speech. You know what I mean? One of my daughters had an incident in a school where she was injured by another student. My wife went and spoke before the school board. That specific episode of that school board meeting was one of the highest rated on their YouTube channel ever.
Oh, wow.
Because of the speech that my wife gave in front of the school board.
Good for her.
So you do these things for your kids. You show up. You know what I mean? You stand up for them. You teach them that standing up for what is right is what you do, even if nothing changes. It doesn't matter. You still stand up for what's right. And those are just they're invaluable lessons that you teach your kids. But as a parent, I think what we sometimes don't think about is that from the second your child is born, you're not raising a child, you're raising an adult. Right? Because you're raising them to become an adult. You don't raise a child to be a child.
Okay, I hear you.
You know what I mean? The lessons that you're teaching Sophia is not for a 13-year-old. You're teaching Sophia lessons as a 13-year-old that she's going to use when she's an adult person.
Sure, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so And I think that we make that mistake as parents sometimes is we don't think of we think we're teaching them these lessons about being children, but we're not. We're teaching them lessons to be adults, right? And
That's a good way to put it.
and so our lessons, our talks, our conversations, or whatever, they have to evolve as our kids get older, and that's always been something that I've always been real around my kids, and I stress this, and you're going to hear me say it probably a million times because I think it's very important. I think it's very important that our children, that people around you see who you are. You cannot place a price tag on authenticity. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah,
you
absolutely.
can't you can't place a price tag on that. You know, there may be a time, Luke, that you and I completely disagree on something, and it doesn't mean that either one of us is wrong. And
Fuck that Buell motorcycle.
yeah,
Whatever.
that thing is. Fuck you for saying that. It's not as bad as you think. but that's what I'm saying though. Like and I think that we're in this weird place right in society right now where disagreeing with somebody means that somebody has to be wrong and somebody has to be right, and that's total bullshit. That is total bullshit. You are absolutely allowed to your own opinion. I'm allowed to my own opinion, but we're also allowed to not agree on them. But it also doesn't mean that we have to hate each other because we don't like each other's opinion on something.
We're allowed to agree to disagree.
Well,
and it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it can be as simple as that. It's not that anymore. And that's just, like you said, that's where we're at as a society now.
And this is the funny thing that I've always said to people, right? And actually, I'm going to present this question to you because I don't know the answer, so I'm going to ask you this question. Would you rather be filled with a room with people that you 100% agree with on everything, or be filled with a room full of people that have varying ideas and subject matters and things that they believe in and don't believe in? What room would you rather be in?
I'd take that second room all day long.
Yeah.
You can't evolve as a person. I feel like you can't evolve as a person. You can't. You're never going to understand what you're disagreeing with unless you have constructive conversations with people that have different opinions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And being in that room is only good for you if you're open to have those conversations.
For sure. Absolutely, right? If you go in the room and you don't want to be there, then don't be there. Leave the room, right? Because that's not going to help you. But being open to that is where you're going to provide yourself with room with growth. And but I think that still connects directly to what we're talking about today, which is how do you make space for all these things in your life, and that's exactly how, like, being open to making room for those things, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's it's not being selfish. It's don't always look for what you want to do. You got to give your time elsewhere. It's not all about you, and that, like I said, it took me a long time to figure that out, and I'm glad I did. I'm definitely a better person for it today than before.
When you were going through that, Luke, did you lose friends?
Yeah, for sure. I lost some friends. Yeah, definitely lost some friends. Yeah. The simple answer is yes. I mean, when I finally learned who really I was, accepted who I was, and what I needed to work on top of just being more self-aware and realizing who I wanted to, and that, of course, that shifts who you want to spend your time with. I definitely spent a lot less time with a few people, and rarely talk to them anymore, and that's okay. They didn't seek. Funny thing is, the common thread from all of them is none of them seeked me out to understand why we weren't spending more time together, nor tried to spend any extra time together after that. So that was a true sign that they didn't need to be in my life. They were not adding value to me.
Sure. Do you think that was because you were evolving and your friends didn't want you to evolve?
We were friends because of where that chapter of my life we got along.
Sure.
and I turned a page,
Sure.
and they were still in that chapter, and that's fine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I,
Yep.
I got nothing against them,
Yep.
but what was healthy for me
Yeah.
was to turn that page, and they,
Yep.
they weren't their book in the book ended there for that
Yeah.
person and myself.
I asked that because I have a couple of friends who are recovering alcoholics, or like they like to say alcoholics, because once you are one, I guess you're never not.
Sure.
But they don't have a lot of friends from that point in time in their life, right? Because a lot of their friends were centered around, that kind of lifestyle that they were living. And in fact, Bob, I always mention Bob.
Yeah.
Bob and I talked about that one time. I was actually driving back from Minneapolis, and I talk a lot to Bob in the car, like you were saying when you catch up with people, right? So I was on a business trip, and I was talking to him in the car, and we were talking about meaningful relationships and how when you're in those stages in your life, like he said something like he didn't have a lot of like real meaningful friendships. His friendships were always very like on the surface, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he was obviously drinking as a coping mechanism for many people. And so he was drinking as a coping mechanism, and that didn't enable him to have these like meaningful relationships. And I said right to him, I said, Bob, I said, realistically, do you think that you and I would be able to have a really good friendship had drinking still been involved? He said, well, absolutely not, because we wouldn't even have been able to have a conversation like we were having, right? Because you're masking your feelings
Right.
by drinking or whatever your addiction is, and when that's not there, you can't mask them, so you have to face them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're not your true self.
Yeah. I spent some time, I think, in my adulthood, because I realized when I was young I had a ton of like really superficial friendships. You know what I mean? And then I got to this point in time in my life where I kind of looked around me and I was like, well, I don't really have a lot of friends at all. So then really what I wanted to do was examine, well, okay, is this me? Am I the problem? Because maybe I was the problem. Or do I need to find myself in a position where I can have more meaningful friendships, right? Friendships that are rooted in something deeper than superficial, hey, I'm just hanging out with you because we have a good time. You know what I mean?
Right.
And and that when that changed, my friendships changed. My friendships became very reciprocal. You know what I mean? You call me, I call you, kind of scenario.
Yep.
And then you kind of have that expectation. You know what I mean? I think that from the time that you and I started texting back and forth on a regular basis, I don't think there's ever been a time where there hasn't been an answer to a text message within, 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, a reasonable amount of time.
Yep. I know for sure there's never been one that's gone 24 hours. I don't think there's even ever been one that's gone 12 hours. And I know, and we've never talked about an expectation, but I think that we both are mature enough in our idea of what it's like to be working on a friendship, developing a friendship, that kind of stuff, to know that, those unanswered messages are also messages, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And if you want to develop a friendship or whatever, or any kind of relationship with somebody, you have to prioritize them. They have to be important, right? They have to be pinned to the top of your list so that those messages don't scroll down, right? Or however that goes. But
there has to be effort, right? Intentionality and effort,
and that's a two-way street.
Just like any relationship,
Yep.
whether that's friendship or marriage or whatever, family, anything. It's got to be a two-way street. There has to be intentionality to it. That's a big thing I learned over the last several years. Being intentional with my actions and my words, and that's made me a better partner, a better friend, a better family member, definitely way better parent, way better father. So.
Sure. And I think the other thing too, Luke, is that you said it already. Give yourself some grace. No one gives us a fucking manual, right?
That's right.
Like
I keep looking on Amazon for one.
yeah, there
There
isn't
ain't
one,
nothing
right?
there. It's
Right?
bullshit.
Yeah, there's not there's a lot of self-help books. There's a lot of people who call themselves parental experts, right? Which,
Even Chat GPT, man.
yeah,
Nothing.
right.
Bullshit.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna disparage anybody that's written a book about parenting. But at the end of
Sure.
the day, is that the only lesson that we have is our parents, and every generation parents different than the parents before them, right? I mean, you go about I can tell you that I there was part of my childhood I was raised old school, like.
Gotcha.
I mean, you like old school, like go get the belt, old school. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that shit's not acceptable anymore. That's called child abuse.
It is. It is. That's
Right?
absolutely.
Right. So
Yeah.
so we're different parents than our parents were, and I'm not disparaging my parents whatsoever and how they raised me. That
No.
those things were acceptable. Those things are whatever. Right. But I think that that part of it evolves too. But I think that we don't also like cut ourselves a break. Like, and when I say that, it's okay to tell your child that you're not perfect. It's okay to tell your child, I made a mistake. Like, I'm sorry I said that. Like, if you can't tell your child you're sorry, look them in the face, say you're sorry, and be sorry. You better go talk to somebody, because that means there's something you're not doing right. I mean, you don't give a fuck all about your kids as much as you should if you can't look at them and apologize when you're wrong, when you're not right, when you've done something wrong, when you've said something by mistake, when you have overstepped your bounds, whatever it is, you have to own it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a few years ago, Sophia came to me, or I don't know, maybe it just been conversations as she came to me. We were talking, and it wasn't long after we had a disagreement, and she said, "Dad, I really appreciate that we get mad at each other and we give ourselves space, and then but we don't leave it hanging out there." I don't think she used those words, but that's what she's getting at. We don't leave it hanging out there. We come back, we talk about it. And I was like, "So you mean you like that we bring closure to it?" She's like, "Yeah, I really like that. Thank you for doing that." And I was like, "Okay, well, if I don't do anything else right as a parent, I got that one right." It was a
Right.
really good moment. And so to your point, to give closure, be humble, show your child grace, show yourself grace. So you got to say sorry if you're in the wrong. You're not always right just because you're a fucking adult.
Right.
That doesn't matter.
Right.
And at the end of the day, all that means is you're leading by example for your child.
Yeah.
So
hey, that shit that she said to you though, that hit you, right? Because you remember,
man.
you recalled it, you remember it, right? So you're probably like, hey, like you're probably parenting as that. She set a boundary. She did all of the things that you wanted. Like, she set a boundary with you, which means that moving forward in her life, Luke, she's going to set a boundary with the men in her life, or whoever
Yep.
she decides to share
Anybody.
her life with.
Yes.
She's going to set boundaries, and she's going to have expectations. That's great, dude. I mean, good for you, and good for you for like being a parent and recognizing it, and then here we are talking about it, and you pull it forward. You're like, hey, guess what happened to me 2 years ago? So that had an impact. I mean, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. That's,
thank you.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. And thank you for sharing that, right? Because I think that
Yeah, man.
that's something that we're not good at, right? I'm gonna make a generalization here again. Men, we are not good at this, right?
We're terrible at it.
We're not good at talking like this. We're not good at hearing these things. We're not good at complimenting each other about being good parents, being good friends. There's all that that machismo, especially in the motorcycle world, right? There's a lot of dick swinging going on in the motorcycle world.
That's all a pissing contest.
Oh,
right?
absolutely, right. And there's a certain amount of that that's good, right? I'm not disparaging all of it, right? I'm just saying a certain amount of it is good. But I think that there's a certain amount of confidence that comes in rolling up on your bike and having everybody clown you, and you looking at them and you being like, fuck you. Like, I like my bike.
Sure.
I don't give a shit if
Yeah.
you like it or not. Like, it's not
Yeah.
your bike. Like, this is my bike. I ride it. I paid for the shit. If you don't like it, eat a dick. Right. And
That's right.
And there's a certain amount of confidence that comes in that too. And like that, I like. If somebody strolls up and I was clowning them on their bike, and then they told me to, eat a dick because it's their bike and they like it just the way that it is, I'll be like, give me some of that,
Yeah.
give me some of that,
That's
give me some of that energy, right? Because
Yeah.
but those are people that I'm attracted to, that I like to be around, to be friends with, that are, that kind of,
They're comfortable in their own skin.
yeah, absolutely. I really, the world is too short, and I don't want to surround myself with people that share my same ideas all the time or my same feelings and thoughts. And and I don't. My friends that I have that I ride with are very different than me, and that's good. I like that. I like that.
Sure.
But there's also that like that checkbox, like, hey, my friends are good at that with me. On occasion, be like, you're being a dick, because I can. I can do that. Like I can just, all of a sudden just be like, okay, I'm gonna focus in on this weakness that you have, and I'm not gonna let it go.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, hey, you're being a dick right now. Shut your mouth.
That's may have been told to me once or twice before, or this week. I'm not sure.
Or this week, or it could have been yesterday. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, it might have been on the interstate earlier. I'm not really sure, but it's a whole nother story.
Might be my neighbor right before I got home.
That's right. That's right.
And I think that's okay too, right? I mean, and not everything that we experience in those situations are reasons to fight people either. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
sometimes like somebody says that and you're like, huh, yeah, you're right. I'm a dick. Like, you just might. Maybe I just need to own it. Like, I'm a dick right now. So that happens too. But man, this was a good conversation. This was a good little discussion about how you fit things into your life and prioritize your family and your hobbies and your things that you're interested in. I mean, I think
and I think it also kind of morphed a little bit too into just talking about life and being comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah.
Being self-aware, being a parent. We covered a lot, but I like that. And I think for the folks listening or watching, I think you're going to hear more of this. Not every episode necessarily, but you're going to hear more of this. This is what we're looking for. Not just motorcycles. We want to talk about life and your shirt and all those things. So it's been fun. I appreciate you being open. You thanked me numerous times, but thank you for opening up and sharing a little bit. Pulling the curtain back a little bit, sharing about your upbringing and in your life. Yeah,
man. I mean, I think that I don't know. I'm going to be an open book. Right, I'm going to put it out there, good, bad, and ugly. I think that, there's a connection that you can make with people about being honest and authentic.
Sure.
I think the people that know me, I mean, even from like other things I've done, I try to be, as honest and authentic as I can be, because I think that that's how you make genuine, real connections. Life is too short. And I do really thoroughly enjoy genuine, real connections, and I don't really want to spend my time or waste my time on connections that aren't real and aren't genuine. And I make that known when I go meet people, like everybody that we were camping with last weekend. All the people that were there when we left. I hug people when I greet them. I hug them when I leave. And that's genuine.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be fake. I'm not trying to be weird about it. Right? It's that's okay. And that's something I think maybe it's probably something that you see in the sports world, but it's also so it's not super unique, but it's in the motorcycle world too. You'll see that a lot. You see friends hug each other as a greeting or whatever.
Absolutely.
And I think that we forget sometimes that underneath all of that, like cosplay, right? We're people that want connection, and that connection is social, and it's emotional, it's physical. All of those things are part of that connection. You know what I mean? When you see it all the time. All you have to do is turn on ESPN. Right?
I think what you're saying is hugs, not drugs. I think that's what you're getting at.
I mean, if you got to share a line with somebody to be friends, I guess that's on you. That's not a line I have to share with somebody, but
that's great. That's awesome. Hey, before we wrap it up, I know you gave a shout out to Jay. Thanks for not only being our first Patreon member, first person to order some merch. And then Chris from Morgan City Cycles here in St. Louis, a buddy of mine, ordered a couple things off the merch store. last night and gave us a shout out on social media. So really appreciate that. Speaking of social media, please give us a follow on all the socials. This will be on YouTube as well. We've got Discord out there, and that is free to come in and join the chat and have a lot of fun, get to meet and get to know some of the other listeners. And of course, Patreon, if you want to help support us, because this ain't fucking free at all for us to do, and want to give us a little love, we appreciate it. There's 2 tiers on that, $5 and $10 a month. And if you do the $10 a month, we will enter your name into a quarterly drawing for some Moto State podcast merch.
Hey, and if you join our Discord, don't be a dick. We're not going to deal with that shit. We will bounce your ass faster than anything.
That's right.
We're trying to build a good community, so don't be an asshole, right? I'm the only one that's allowed to be an asshole. Everybody else has to be nice. No, I'm just kidding.
It's not bullshit. I get to be an asshole.
Yeah, he does too. Just be respectful. That's all we ask. It's not too hard to not be an asshole. So.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening or watching or all the above. As always, if you got any other ideas or thoughts for subjects or guests, shoot us a message either on Discord or in one of our socials, and we'll take that into consideration. And until next time, we'll see you next week. See you guys.
We out.
Peace.